Hello everybody, it's Dr. Drake 63 here again. Today we're going to review the Trijicon MRO 2.0. We're also going to compare it size and weight-wise to the Aimpoint PRO, which is another large reticle, high-end red dot sight. I hope you enjoy this review. Thanks for stopping by. When looking at something like an SBR, or for you guys that run the pistols, you want to look at what kind of real estate does an optic take up and what does it weigh, because small is better on something like this. Now I prefer the larger reticle as opposed to a micro dot on this kind of a firearm, but when you look at the amount of real estate that something takes up, look at this comparison. This is less than half of the amount of real estate that's taken up by this Aimpoint. So why don't we take a look at what the relative weight is. Okay, so the Aimpoint Pro comes in at 12.1 ounces. So it's got a pretty heavy adjusting or attachment mechanism, which I'm very, very high on that. I think it's great. It's a great way to do it. Unfortunately, it's kind of big. But let's compare that to 5.95 ounces for the Trijicon. Less than half the weight and less than half the size. And you're looking at a 2 MOA red dot either way. So you can see why I'm looking to do this replacement. And I wanted something that was going to be a more robust, a bigger field of view than a microdot. So Trijicon spent a little bit more on their packaging than the folks at Aimpoint did. Aimpoint's a box. It's a nice looking box and it does what you need it to. And then with Trijicon, hard plastic, very nicely padded. And as you can see, comes with the typical stuff. Instruction manual, your Allen wrench for installation. Looks like there's a cleaning cloth in there. And other than that, it's just a nice little box that I don't know if it'll be in much. But, for what it's worth. I know the EOTechs come with a nice plastic box. Recently reviewed the Holosun 503 GU, which is a micro optic, which I love. And that came in a plastic box. So it's kind of like anymore like with your cell phones. The box may be half your cost. I don't know. But anyway, we're gonna put this on, see what we can do with it. One of the other things I noticed just looking at these two reticles, you've got the same basic field of view, but in terms of real estate taken up, with this battery compartment and switch here on the Aimpoint, it just adds a bit extra, which again, on a patrol rifle, something that law enforcement's using, something like that, maybe not such a big deal, but on an SBR, again, I'm a big fan of anything that can be done and here you can see that dot. Kind of hard to get here on camera. I would say just in terms of the crispness of the dot, absolutely no difference whatsoever. You do get what I consider a little bit broader field of view here just because the length of the tube is half as long. Now, I don't know if there might be some other advantages to that longer tube in terms of in terms of light acquisition or things like that. I'm not sure. But, you know, you're talking here, this is an optic that typically is going to sell somewhere. You can get these $450 or under. I've seen them for $437 advertised a lot. And I think if you really work hard, you can. This one is typically going to be advertised on the north side of $500. And depending on where you go and you do your looking with shipping and everything else, maybe you can get this down cheaper. The one thing to keep in mind is this Trijicon, a lot of them will show up cheaper, but they're not coming with a base. Now, this one does, and so you have to factor that in. But I was able to pick this one up for $450, and it was at a local gun shop, and I'm not going to tell you where. The guy's not looking to sell a lot of these for $450, but somebody I do a lot of business with, and that's a darn good price for this. So I roughly put these in about the same price category, with the Trijicon being just a bit more expensive. The Aimpoint PRO, like I said, is a proven commodity, and it comes with some nice caps, covers. This does not. I'm not a guy that puts covers and leaves covers on anyways. You can see I took the flip-up covers off of that. One thing I really like about this is you have the 2 points for mounting. Anytime you can have a longer mounting base or engage more than one of the rails, I think you're money ahead as far as holding zero and things like that. Now, this is supposedly set up for absolute co-witness, and sometimes I look at those and wonder if it really is or not, but in this particular case, we're going to leave the front sight on, but this very nice Daniel Defense rear sight is probably going to have to go ahead and put a pop-up sight and M-bus on that. We'll see. But much more economical look to that SBR right now in terms of what we're carrying around there optic-wise. If you can see this, but see the dot right there, and it is 100% exactly from the factory inline with my front and rear sights. Now, this is supposed to be an absolute co-witness, and maybe just because of the size, this would be if it was a micro dot with, but the bigger reticle, it acts more like a lower 1/3. But I'm going to want to get that rear sight out of the way more than likely. But that's pretty slick right there. I'm going to probably just go ahead and shoot with it before I decide what kind of adjustment it needs. But speaking of adjustments, it's pretty standard. You've got your elevation on top, and you've got your windage on the side, and you have what's called an ambidextrous brightness adjustment knob. Now I'm going to point something else that I really like about this as a feature. You see that you have multiple settings, 3 through 6, and then you've got multiple night setting if you're using night gear, which I don't. But then you go 1, 2, and then there's a space, that's an off. And then you go to 3. 3 is your recommended setting for wanting to keep it on and get the most battery life, which on this it's 50,000 hours, something crazy like that. So it's probably where we'll keep it. But it's just nice. You don't have to cycle through to figure out where you are. If you just want to turn it off, you can turn it off. One click to the left and you're where you need to be. Like I said, you've got this group of night vision settings over here. So very, very nice setup. Very nice setup. And not that looks are everything. Not a bad look for the rifle. Apparently she has something to say too. What is it with dogs and opinions, huh?
Yeah, it's like this. Cool. Like that. And you didn't even read the instructions. Nice, huh?
After a few minor adjustments, we were able to get where we wanted to be at 50 yards. Then speeding things up, you can see we spread out a bit, but if you look at that bullseye, this groups nicely. All in all, I'd have to say that this optic performs exactly like I'd hoped. Another important aspect in how an optic performs is how it does with a weapons-mounted light. If you have it on that always-on setting of 3, it's real important that you're able to see that when you turn a weapons-mounted light on. Doesn't really show up in this particular video, but that's because I'm using a cell phone camera. But trust me on this, the dot shows up just fine, and 3's a good setting. Everybody's got their own philosophy of use for their firearms. In most cases, it's just to have fun shooting at the range. My particular use for this firearm is, besides having fun, this is the firearm I will defend my home with if I ever need to. Hence the short barrel and a size that's kind of compact. Why? Because it's very easy to maneuver around. Yet has the ability to reach out with this 300 blackout round and a nice effective range out to 200 meters. Now, a lot of people are going to tell you, oh, it goes a lot farther than that. All you have to do is hold over by 15 or 20 inches. But when I talk effective range, I talk about where it shoots flat and where you can have a quick response and get something done. Okay, I have other rifles for shooting distance and things like that, but this guy right here needs to be on. Okay, so that's why I have a very nice bolt carrier group in there. That's why I've always wanted to have a good optic on there. And this is kind of the progression for me, getting to this Trijicon here. So very much pleased with this philosophy of use. Like I said, I don't expect to ever have to use this in a self-defense mode, and I wouldn't want to shoot it inside the house, but you know, if that S ever hits the fan, I don't know. Nice little 5 magazine cell pouch, so between that and what we have right here, you're talking about 180 rounds of 300 blackout, which is a formidable defense, and probably the most of a defense that I'm going to put up at my age, because I can't run very fast. So always think about what you can carry with you and how far you can go. But this particular optic, I love it. I love the way it's functioning so far. Shot very well, and looking forward to seeing how this does over the long haul. The real test is going to be where I live in Minnesota. How does it do with extremes in temperature? When probably next winter, when you get down to your minus belows and everything, taking it from the house outside, shooting it, does it hold zero? Things of that nature. Does the battery life do what's advertised? Does it blink on and off like some optics I've had in the budget range? So very pleased though, and from a size perspective and a fit on this particular firearm, I think we're balls on and we're jamming, as they say. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching again today. This particular video about the review of the Trijicon MRO, and that's 2.0 as it's called. Thanks again, and remember guys, please support the NRA.